It's Monday, September 29th. Welcome to Scouting the League. It was a fantastic weekend full of games, both on the college front and in the NFL. Even if the games ended up in ties, they were good ones. A lot of great players had good performances, and it really came right down to the end in some of these. Alabama walking into Athens, getting a big win, hopefully quiets down any questions on Kalen DeBoer, what he means to that program. Our guy, Aaron Hodges, who we had on just a couple weeks ago, certainly had at least a little to do with that. Make sure you go check out that episode, and looking forward to get Aaron back on at some point in the future to talk about not only that win, but everything else in that Alabama program. Oregon also walks into a hostile environment in the whiteout, comes out with a win. If you want to call it another stain on the resume of James Franklin, you can certainly do that, though he does have time with one or two big wins this year to make up for it. We are going to focus in a little bit on some things I saw in that game as we talk about quarterback and program ownership. But again, have to hit on our guy, universally loved by scouts, thought highly of Sam Pittman out at Arkansas. A tough spot to win, though not impossible in today's NIL world. Is Arkansas in the SEC ever going to be more than a 500 spot? Is it going to be a destination spot for coaches, for athletes, for NIL money? Probably a topic we have to dive in deeper on at some point. Won't be today, though, but again, a tough one for Sam Pittman. Before we jump into today's ownership conversation, make sure you head over, like, subscribe, and share this podcast wherever you are listening and watching. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or over on YouTube. Share this with a friend. Really going to talk about quarterback development, quarterback ownership. I know there's somebody in your life that wants to talk and hear about quarterbacks from a scouting perspective. The things that are going to be seen, going to be really fun to dive into some of this stuff today. Head over, give myself a follow as well. I am Rodrik David at RightStepADV is where you can find me. RSAFootball.com is my website as well. Make sure you go follow the home that we are here at Scouting the League at ProFootballInsiders.com, pro_FB_insiders on X. Great network we are a part of with a bunch of really good podcasts, no matter where you are at in the country. Make sure you go check out some of our partners as well. The Stuart Jenkins over at BlueMaca.com. Order those insoles today, as well as InactiveCO.com. Jill and Lori helping you improve your sleep. If you head over to Blue Maca, make sure you use code SCOUTING20 for 20% off those insoles as well. So as we get into quarterback ownership, you come out of that Oregon first Penn State game. You appreciate James Franklin taking ownership for that loss. Again, should he have gone for two? That was something I was sitting there asking myself. You've got momentum, go for the win right there. Typically something a visiting team does. Hey, you go for the tie if you're at home, maintain the momentum, or you go for the 2-point if you're the road team, try to get out of there at that time. Again, certainly the argument to be made, go for the win right then and there, the way both teams are operating. Again, tough to second guess that. I'm not going to second guess it. It is, a tough analytics decision. The numbers were whatever they were. So again, I'm not going to hold them accountable for that. Again, they made the decisions they made. Obviously didn't work out for Penn State in the end, but you start talking about the ownership. Ownership of a program at the college football has more and more become about the head coach. Good, bad, indifferent. That is the reality of the program, reality of the nature of everything. There was a time when the quarterback, just like it is at the NFL, was really the one that had to take most of the ownership for both wins and especially losses. But again, it's just been amplified at the college level. You want everybody post-game to step up and, whether it be the head coach, the play caller, the quarterback, the O-line, the stars on the team, you want everybody taking ownership. That is certainly part of it. But the quarterback has to be the one that steps up when the lights are the brightest and, really take ownership. It's a debate I've had with a number of different people, whether it's angry scout vet who I think really skews way too far in the all quarterback division. But again, Belichick or Brady. I recently just posed the question to Groke over on X. Hey, who deserves more credit for the Patriots dynasty, Bill Belichick or Tom Brady? Again, a pretty reasonable argument from, again, really impressive AI that he's Groke said 60-40 to the quarterback, which again, I don't disagree with 60-40. Maybe I'm a Bill Belichick guy in the NFL coaching circles. Again, taking everything he's done at North Carolina aside, again, maybe 55-45 will split it. But again, the 60-40 argument that it's the quarterback ultimately on the field who has to play, has to make the plays, and has to lead the team down the field when it matters. The head coach, in Bill's case, again, you do a lot behind the scenes with coaching staff, coaching changeover, draft, everything else involved. There's a lot on the plate. But again, at the end of the day, the on-field product matters. It all matters for the quarterback to be in control, which is we've seen in the college game and at a certain degree in the NFL now, but more and more is coming from the sideline. I think about back when Sean McVay had a young Jared Goff in the late 20-teens, again, 2017, 18, when I was part of the Atlanta Falcons pro scouting department looking at these Rams, who were a really good team, really talented team. But again, everything came from the sideline. Sean McVay could do it. Maybe he's one of the few in the NFL that could do it. But again, you get that play call in your head. Everything is happening. Everything's being communicated prior to that mic being cut off 15 seconds prior to the play clock. Again, you get lined up. That Rams team was lined up, ready to go, 15 seconds left. The mute goes on that microphone, and then it's on Jared Goff to run the play. Again, you look at I did the advanced scout on that. They were snapping the ball at average about 12 seconds left on the play clock because, again, at 15 seconds, McVay had given Jared Goff the call, and now it was on the team to go out and execute. We've seen that at the college level to an even higher degree. You think about when Baylor really went full spread. We saw it with Cliff Kingsbury. Lincoln Riley's been a big part of it. Everything comes from the sideline. Hurry up, get to the line of scrimmage, let somebody up in the press box, talk to the head coach on the sideline. It used to be signals. It was heavy signals for a long time now, since last year, this year, now in college. We've got that green dot on the quarterback's helmets who can now get the direct play call from the OC, head coach, whoever it may be. So again, you're taking a lot of that onus off of the quarterback to get everything in place. As a result, I think it's been a trickle down all the way through football. Quarterbacks' situational awareness is getting less and less scoutable because so many players are not doing it in any way. A head coach is always going to tell you, our guy can do it. That's just not the way we operate. Well, again, that's then on the scout to decide based on everything else they hear, based on situations. Hey, can this guy do it? That was maybe something where I thought Dante Moore for Oregon excelled more than Mr. Drew Aller at Penn State. Again, when it came to crunch time, Dante Moore looked like he was in control of that offense. He looked like he was in control without the sideline. I thought Drew looked a little bit panicked as that sideline, other than James Franklin really trying to control the situations, looked a little bit more panicked. Again, you talk about that situational. A quarterback, when the game is on the line, when it gets down to crunch time, the clock is a factor, down in distance a factor, the score is a factor, personnel is a factor. The quarterback has to be controlled. As more and more has been taken from the quarterback's plate, put on the sideline, put on your signal callers, put on the coach who is signaling everything in, the quarterbacks have gotten less and less able to manage these situations. We see it heavily on the college landscape with all these quarterbacks. If you want to say a Julian Sayin, some of these young, true redshirt freshman quarterbacks, all right, ease them in, but start to give them control. Again, I think that's something that you saw with Ohio State when they made their change from Colin McCord to their transfer from Kansas State. It certainly had an effect on that offense. You talk about them being able to really operate under control with a veteran quarterback last year. Perhaps that was part of that national championship run. I think back again in what Georgia is currently going through. Stetson Bennett, an older quarterback, really, really under control, really had the situations under control, did not rely maybe on the sideline as much because he was a veteran. He had been around a bunch of football, maybe more of an old school personality. Was that part of Carson Beck's issue? Carson Beck had a good year, was more of everything on the sideline, was more being communicated with him. Year 2 at Georgia, all of a sudden takes a huge regression, a huge step back as Morris put on his plate. Again, it's going to be an interesting part of Carson's Beck evaluation down at Miami. What are they asking him to do? Have they really simplified it? Have they taken a lot off his plate? In the NFL, you cannot do that as much because of the nature of the game, the way the game is played at the NFL level. And defenses will, for the most part, break you under 15 seconds. There's not many, again, maybe 2 or 3 Sean McVay types that are going to be able to get that play call adjusted and then still do everything under that clock, under the clock. And again, as you saw the Rams continue with Jared Goff, I would argue they made the decision that they had taken Jared as far as they went. They obviously make the change for Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, as a veteran, as under control as anybody in the NFL. Again, you talk about the elite ones. Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, elite at the line of scrimmage and what they're able to do and where they're able to get their teams. Again, old school guys that understand football, understand situations. And so, again, if you go back to what the scouts are having to look at, it is becoming harder and harder for scouts to evaluate that portion because, again, a play happens and the quarterback's eyes are going to the sideline. Maybe the eyes are up towards the line of scrimmage. Maybe they're starting to look at personnel. But again, then you have to ask, all right, what is being communicated? How are they doing it? Are they getting under control with that offense? Do they know, again, before the communication comes on, do they know, hey, we've got to be up tempo, we've got to spike this thing, we've got to get to the sideline? Those are the things that good scouts are going to be able to evaluate with quarterbacks. And as you're watching a team, look at who is under control. Where are the quarterbacks going as soon as the play's done? Do they have to go to the sideline? Do they have to cover those ear notches to make sure they're able to hear and communicate and find out what they need to do? Again, an old school football mentality. Again, my dad, an offensive coordinator at the high school level, had it ingrained in me as a quarterback to where I felt like I was comfortable. Again, not to the level that these guys are. But again, at a high school, I think about that game situational stuff all the time. You have to understand situational football. What's got to happen with the clock? How does it have to happen? What is the process? Where do we need to get the ball? Where do we need to get the offense? The faster a quarterback can do it, the more under control, the more confident a quarterback can do it, the better NFL quarterback he is going to be. It's going to be one less thing an NFL front office and NFL quarterback room is going to have to teach that guy, and is more and more important in the game as the game is played on the field. Again, you go back to that 60-40. Bill deserves a lot of credit. Tom, again, arguably deserves slightly more credit. He did it on the field. The ultimate field general in control of the offense. You have to evaluate it, and scouts are evaluating. And when you go into the building, scouts are going to be asking the questions, but it becomes offensive coordinator says it, head coach says they are under control, but again, nothing on the film matches. You have to do a lot of work. It's where the quarterback process really becomes a long process in the offseason as you get to know those quarterbacks. You do all the interviews, you do all the secondary interviews, you do maybe a psych evaluation. It's where some of the, if you want to make an argument for any of the cognition tests, S2 or anything else, that perhaps sheds a light on it. Is it a CJ Stroud issue as he maybe looks like he has taken a sophomore slump into his third year here? I don't know. Was that part of what Bryce Young is struggling with it? What did they do down at Alabama to get his plate a little bit cleaner? It is absolutely part of the process. This is something that is continuing to show up across the NFL more and more with these young quarterbacks, and certainly at the college level as these colleges have everything running through their sideline. It becomes a part of the evaluation process, a tough part of the scouting evaluation process, which is why the quarterback position is the hardest in all of sports to evaluate. Why teams take chances and miss more often is sometimes the only thought is, hey, this guy's talented. We've got to take a chance. Let's see exactly where he's at. Educated. We've made a hypothesis. Let's go test it and see. The teams that hit on quarterbacks are almost always going to be in better positions. And we see that with some of these young teams now. So, what are your thoughts? Who are you seeing that is more under control, that is more in control of the offense? Maybe the veteran signal callers. What young signal callers look like? Hey, man, this guy looks like he's pretty composed here. Let's see it as he continues to grow up. I think it's going to be something that Arch Manning certainly has part of him, is something that Mr. Nussmeier is certainly a part of. Again, you look at his background, you think about these guys. Perhaps it's Mendoza at Indiana. Maybe it's some of these more veteran college players, Carson Beck, that will rise through this process as that continues to show up. But again, let me know who you've been impressed by, who you have questions on, and who do you think is really doing it well at the college level. Let me know at RightStepADV. ADV is where you can find me. Hit me a message. Let me know who are the quarterbacks that are standing out. I'm sure we will have some guests, some friends on the podcast to talk quarterbacks as those continue to sort themselves out, and perhaps some of these surprises jumping to maybe quarterback one. Again, I mentioned Indiana. He could be the front runner now as we go through this process. A really good player. Obviously, Jonte Moore out at Oregon, some really impressive quarterbacks. But let me know. We will be back with more from All Things Scouting. But before we go, sometimes family stuff comes up. That was certainly the case for me Friday. But before we go, again, we missed a Friday wrap. Make sure you sign up for Neil's Inside the League Friday wrap. But we missed that faith portion. Don't want to leave today without getting that faith portion. And we're going to jump into the book of James. And we're going to look real quick before we go at Taming the Tongue. James 3. It is a piece of my story, my scouting story that, again, I had a lot of people through the years ask me, like, if you've heard me cuss, I'd be surprised, because I don't. I have challenged myself to tame my tongue even in that way. Coaching, scouting, doing whatever I need to do. In a football industry where the tongue can say, demean, demoralize, do a lot of that things. Again, I like to talk when I'm in competition, smack with the best of them. But again, never in a demeaning way, in a fun. Again, it's helped what get my juices going as a short, stiff white corner playing at Nebraska Wesleyan. Again, it was something that I enjoyed doing. But again, taming the tongue, whether you're a scout, whether you're a coach, whether you are a player, is really tough. And James 3 talks about it. James 3, in context, again, that starts out by talking to teachers, talking to pastors, talking to leaders, and hopefully as men, as scouts, as people who a lot of people look up to, we are a leader in some way. And so this can apply to you. But then beyond that, it is a universal principle about taming the tongue. So jumping in to James chapter 3, not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. We all stumble in many ways. Anyone who is never at fault in what they say is perfect, able to keep their whole body in check. When we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take ships as an example. Although they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue is also a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and sea creatures are being tamed and have been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it curse human beings who have been made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring? My brothers and sisters, can a fig tree bear olives or a grapevine bear figs? Neither can a salt spring produce fresh water. Taming the tongue is an incredible challenge. I remember multiple times in the draft room being pressed, being goaded to try and say something, what I will call unsavory. Everybody knew, those that had been around me knew I wasn't going to use language that I would call unsavory. I was going to use the same language I would use at a church service on Sunday with my family, with my kids, with my parents, with whoever it was. It was the same language, the same tongue. It's the same salt, the same spring that springs forth from me. Scouts, we have opportunities all the time to talk about players, to talk about coaches, to talk about schemes, to talk about anything. And this small part of our body, our tongue, that makes many of these statements, has a chance to say things civilly, to say things in a way that is accurate. They're not a good player. They're not a good player. They're average or marginal. They're whatever. We don't have to demean. We don't have to cuss. We don't have to bring these things down just because that's the way that we have been told football operates. Again, coaches that want to rip you apart, that want to demean players, that use that as their motivation, that's one way to do it. I would argue not the right way, not the most effective way, certainly a way to do it though. And again, I'm not going to say this is the end all be all to what a person's character is. But again, just like James chapter 3 tells us, consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. Even the smallest thing that is not a good thing, not a clean, not a wholesome thing. You can coach incredibly hard without setting that fire with that small spark. It can be done. It is a challenge. I promise you that. I know great people that have that challenge. When you hear it all the time, when you're the only one, don't be the only one. I can almost assure you there's probably one or two, three other people on your staff that would love to take these steps with you. Get together and challenge each other. Again, I'm not going to suggest a quarter jar. Again, that's something you want to do with your kids. If you want to make a gentleman's bet, if you want to have a little challenge, by all means, find the way to get it done. But again, taming the tongue is something as Christians, as Christ followers, as scouts, as men of God, as coaches, we can all do. So I challenge you to do it. Read that James 3 as we wrap up today. We'll just say a quick prayer as we help ourselves, help each other take those steps to glorify God with the same mouth that we use for everything else. So, dear Jesus, thank you for the weekend. Thank you for our Monday. Thank you for this podcast. Thank you for football, for scouting, for everything in the game of football that we're able to do. Lord, we just ask for a blessed week, a week of safety, a week of rest, a week of production, whatever it is that any individual needs as they're listening. Please give it to them in a full amount that will allow them to see you and see your spirit. We also ask for an extra portion of grace and courage as we challenge ourselves and each other to tame our tongues, to glorify you in all that we do and in all that we say and all that comes out of our mouth. We want to be fresh springs of water that bring you praise. And we ask that you help us in that way, that you give us the courage, the strength, and the whatever it is that we need in our individual lives to do that. Lord, we love you. We thank you. We do all of this in Jesus' most precious name. Amen.